Hello there, my name's Phil Williams and I would like to welcome you to Audio Angling, the podcast site of fishingfilmsandfacts.co.uk. This interview is one I've wanted to do for quite some time and is actually recording a little piece of angling history, because sat beside me here in the lounge of his house at Milo near Falmouth is the genuine sea angling legend that is Frank Vinnicome. Words like legend are used so regularly these days to describe people who contributed little or nothing to whatever course they've taken in life that they've become devalued through people having heard it all so many times before. That most certainly is not the case here. At the age of 87, and having survived being badly injured by a German V1 flying bomb in the war which seriously affected his ability to speak, Frank Vinnicome still commercially fishes for mackerel using the old traditional Cornish hurdy-gurdy hand-lining method. But it's as skipper of the Falmouth-based charter fishing boat Moss Rose back in the 1970s, along with his brother Robin, who skippered Huntress, that Frank made his mark. The Vinnicomes were probably responsible for the hooking and landing of more big Mako Sharks in British waters than every other boat and angler put together. When I first spoke to Frank during the planning for this interview, I asked him what his secret was, to which he modestly replied, good luck. One big Mako Shark? Maybe. But 10 of the things, plus a further 6 by his brother Robin when maybe one a year for the rest of the country was newsworthy, to me is more than luck. Now I know that most Mako Shark catches elsewhere in the country were accidental, picked up while taking long open water drifts over the 40 fathom line for the more abundant blue shark. I also know that the odd one was sighted and targeted over the shallow reefy ground around the Eddystone. But the more anglers there were out from ports like Loo chasing the blues with all that rubby-dubby going into the water, the more chance there was of someone from one of those ports picking up the odd Mako. Clearly, that was not the case with you, because not only did you outfish everyone else put together, but you also did it by not doing what they were doing. Obviously, the fish had to be there in the first place to catch. So what was it that attracted the big Makos to your particular area? How did you come to recognise this, and how specifically did you set about tracking them down and ultimately catching them?
We had anglers, quite a few local ones at that, who would be disgusted if a blue shark took their bait, because they caught so many blues. They were after Mako Sharks. And we found Makos, poor Makos you can catch under the boat, but you wouldn't catch them when Mako close to the boat. Off a long distance with a bigger bait. But the drawback with a bigger bait is if the fish have already fed, you'll only play with it. You see what I mean? I put on a 3-foot garfish one day for Major Olden across the sea. It's usually at Samoa. He was over with me practically every day. And almost a calm, and he had a big football out on the end in a net as a float. He must have been 300 yards out on the starboard side of us. On the stern he was. And we was having a chat away there late afternoon, and I said, where's your float, Major? He said, out there. I said, well, I can see it. And he was right about 1,100 yards off the stern of the boat. I said, well, that's bloody odd. I said, pick up and one in your slack, because you've got a big looper now. He picked up, he said, the only chance you've got now, it would come tight, give him a strike, which we wouldn't do to make those a roll, but he struck, and you know that broke a couple of elastic bands off, but that there gar come back with 2 or 3 punch holes in them. I said, well, that was definitely a Mako Shark. So what? Put more elastic bands, it was the same bait, and I put it out again. And he took it again. But we still didn't hook that fish. He spit them back again. Whether the bait was a garfish, you know what they're like, they stink. Whether it was that, or the fish had fed, see? But he wouldn't take that bait. Or he did take it, but he wouldn't eat it. It must have been he fed before, or the taste of the garfish he wouldn't struck on.
So what did you find over those very successful years to be the best method, or more to the point, the best bait and presentation to encourage a Mako to take when you knew you was fishing in the right area?
Well, Major Owen, he cut to me. He reckoned to catch a Mako you've got to come from Birmingham, Gordon Rod, one day of the year you've got a bloody good chance. You are, you've got a good chance. And there's something in that too. Because most of the Makos we had, and the big poor biggos, and the threshers as well, was caught by somebody the first time with a rod, that sort of rod in their hand.
First time for them, maybe, but not the first time for your boat. You knew exactly what you was doing. They were merely there to wind in the fish that you'd caught for them.
Oh, yeah. They done exactly as I bloody told them, don't you worry. Word for word.
So what was it you told them?
That's the bloody secret you've got to learn. I've been drifting out around there. I'm 87 now, and I went back to the late 50s. All right? The basic thing of a big fish, the basic thing of all, is you don't lock your clutch, see, obviously, but you keep your tip up as high as you can tip him. As high as you can tip him. If you drop your tip to a big fish, he's gone. If he fight the winch, as soon as he fight the winch, pop. Gone. Well, if you got the rod band, you give a bit.
When exactly did the Mako fishing first kick off for you then?
60s.
And how did it all start?
Accidental. We had a 10-mile radar buoy down up dead south of the lighthouse. You in there now, they shifted it now. Country can't afford to keep the bloody thing there now, he said. And between the lizard and that, and the Mako buoy, we used to call that Mako Alley. Mako Alley. That's where practically all the Makos in Falmouth have been caught. Very rich piece of ground.
What was so special about it?
Well, you've got the manacles there, you've got a lot of wrecks there which are all in big ling and pollock and stuff, you know? If you look at the mouth of a Mako, you can see he didn't design to catch pilchards of mackerel. He didn't design for that.
What then was so different about your approach than, say, for traditional blue shark fishing that allowed you to separate the Makos from whatever else might be knocking about, and in bigger numbers too?
Well, just distance from the boat, basically, and size of bait. Size of bait. Though we have caught the Mako on half a mackerel, so you know what I mean. It's so contradictory. I always said I've had thousands of people helping me, saying, Frank, you should write a book. I said, no, I'd never write a book, because that's about what you write in the book, your next shark would contradict a lot. And that's true.
I know it's been a while now, because there probably hasn't been a Mako shark caught in British or Irish waters for around 30 years. So when did you get your last one?
Oh, God. The last one we lost, he made the jump and spit the bloody lot at us. And that must have been late in the 70s or 80s, I believe. We had some good fish alongside us out there last year. Winding in mackerel, come up and grab the bloody line and jump right out the water. You can't say if he's a poor pickle or a Mako until you get and see on the boat. Unless you look at his teeth. The only thing is you can say in the fight, the only thing a good Mako will do for you is to jump. You jump right out the water and you come straight for the boat. And that's where your technique comes in, you know.
And you're still using loads of rubby-dubby at the surface on the drift?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I got pictures of seal here now. I got people, well, they'll be down there within a week or two. As soon as the spring mackerel will come, you can get what I call your local fish. What I call local fish are porpoises, which habitat, like the manacles and stuff. Very rich piece of ground there. Very rich piece of ground for fish. And if they can get all year round fishing food there, what's the point? That's all they want, you see. Well, it's like wrecking. I've been up on the wrecks, looking over, and there's a shark right under the boat, you know. But basically, I would say, Mako fishing is 80% luck. You've got to have a good man on the rod to start with. You've got to have good gear. If you've got one flaw in the gear, in the winch, no matter what you've got, one flaw is an upwind. Because I estimate £100 an hour if he's up to the jaw. If you try and get in before that, you'll lose every time.
You say it's luck, but I'm not buying that. An odd fish, maybe. But you and your brother Robin landed 16 of the things, not to mention the ones you hooked that got away. No way can you put that down to pure chance. There has to be more to it.
Because they was there, I expect. You know? You can't catch a bloody fish in there. We was down on the quay landing fish last night. And all the anglers was there, and they said, Christ, look at the mackerel Frank got here. I said, look, catching fish, my son, is easy. The secret, you've got to go where they live.
They were also in the same piece of sea for everyone else to catch too, but it was you that kept on bringing them to the scales. Every angler knew that if you wanted to crack a really big Mako, then Frank Vinnicome at Falmouth was your man. On top of which, it was also an exceptional time in the species' history to have so many of them visiting the western approaches back then.
Yeah, it was. Late 60s and 70s. Well, July in particular always used to be a good month, you know. I don't know why, but there used to be an abundance of mackerel and pilchards then, till the Scotsmen came down in the late 80s and wiped them all up. As soon as they caught the thousands of tons of mackerel, what they did here, that was the end of the sharks.
So in terms of timing, you're saying that July was the best month?
Well, it was for me. Yeah, it was for me. Although you couldn't, I would never write that in a book, because the next shark you catch, you could have them in bloody August. Do you know what I mean?
Did any particular size of tide, or maybe floods more so than ebbs, stand out from the rest?
Well, the longer the drift you got on a spring tide, obviously. Calms aren't much good. We missed more Makos on calms. Like I said, that big one, Major Alden missed. Or, not, what he did, we had one alongside the boat, the best fish I ever seen. He played him to a standstill. Hours and hours. But the crew I had, I said, hold on that trace, I'll put the rope on the gaff. He's going up and down a bit, and as the boat come down, the trace went slack in his mouth. Where he ripped his mouth so much, bloody hook just dropped out his mouth. He just drifted away like that. I reckon that fish was 700 or 800. Handsome fish. Major wasn't ever good after that. He had all sorts of problems after that. Yeah.
And these fish were always well offshore, were they? Or was that perhaps because they were originally picked up by the blue sharkers working beyond the 40-fathom line? Was nothing ever heard of them closer to the shore, particularly if the bait shoals moved in?
No, I'd like the exception again. I had a bloke called Buckmaster. I had a big Scotch boat then. We had a very strong northerly, which I don't like for sharking. And that boat was 64 foot long, and he was up in the bow. And he knew everything about everything. He's one of they come down here, you know. He'd have a crowd around and up on the quay. I said, here we bloody go. Anyhow, he hooked this one in. We wasn't more than a mile off the Castle Beach, I don't think. And you know, that shark, I shouted him to keep up his tip. He was right up in the bow. He ended up right in the stern. That shark literally dragging along. Every time he got up on his knees, the weight of the fish, dragging aft, till he got right back on the transom, and then the bloody rod tip dropped and popped. Now, that was a big fish. But we got tunny out here, see? Or we had him, till the Scotsmen come down. And some of the tunny used to bring in there, in the pursers. I've seen them down on the fish market 7 or 8 a night. They're 5, 6, 7, 800 pound each. We booked them, but the kit we got in them good. Boats too heavy, not enough length of line, one bloody run, 200-300 yards pop. We hooked them. And we hooked the sailfish down there. That was in the 60s.
Really?
Yeah, that was in the 60s. Bloody said, hey, hold on, and I suppose 5 foot long. But we lost someone. He come right up under the boat and caught off. Crafty, you know. But I still say that you've got to have a lot of luck for the big fish. You've got to have everything right. You've got to have the right man on the rod. And the winch got to be perfect. The line got to be perfect. The chap got to be fit. Because I estimate, like I told you a minute ago, with a good Mako hooked in the jaw, you've got to calculate 100 pound an hour. For every 100 pound you use. And that's hard work. That's hard work. We've got to chase them, you know. Put engines on them and chase them. Almost out of line. Practically out of line. 3 engines I had. Go on, give it a gun. 60 foot, 60, one of the XRF air-sea rescue boats. We retrieve as much as you can. I had my buoyant on engines, like. I was saying to you what to do. But, I don't think we'll ever see Mako again like that, because the massive fish. Although last season, we had the best bit of mackerel, like I told you earlier on, for 30 years. If we can get schools back like that, you'll get sharks back like that. But the way they're catching them and estimating the weight now is a lot of bloody rot. You can estimate a big fish like that. They beat my record by half a pound. When they opened up the shark, there was a 50-pound conger and caught in half and rammed down. Well, if you're going to fish like that, records don't mean a thing to them.
They don't mean a thing anyway, other than showing perhaps the biggest caught so far. It's consistency that's the real measure. Anyone can get lucky and catch one huge fish, then nothing else. It's when you catch them regularly, particularly when others don't, that's the real measure of skill, which is where you had the opposition well and truly beaten on a regular basis, hands down.
I was booked from one year to the next. I couldn't make a mistake. I've had all the famous film stars out there. You name them, I've had them. I've had a Russian ambassador. All these stage people. You know me? Young Winston Churchill ready out there. And the Russian ambassador used to come down every season. And he always bring me a couple bottles, you know, of vodka. He wasn't no angler, but he used to like to come out to what's the rest? They go through the boat first looking for bombs. This is true. Oh, bloody right. That was in the days of the Cold War, you see.
Let's now try to put some sort of total figure on things. Including all the Makos you lost as well as boated, how many do you think you hooked up from when it all started to when it finally finished?
We hooked more than we caught. You wouldn't have the right people on the road. I had a bloke on there sat in a chair one day. Oh, he said, water. I said, you'll get bloody water. You'll be overboard if you don't keep up that tip. And he just went faint. Collapsed with the weight on him. Just went faint. As I say, you've got to have a combination. You've got to have the right combination. First thing, you've got to have a shark there. You've got to feed sometime in the day or night. They will feed night time, you know. We have to go on the manacles anchored up for conger. By the time I got the ship the anchor, of course, that was that.
Did you ever try deliberately fishing for them at anchor?
Yeah, no, we was on conger. And right on the rock called the Vase it was. And ABRB had a big tackle shop, you know. And he used to do our booking. He'd come out every Wednesday. He was a good man on the rod, but by the time we shipped the anchor, he was out of the line, and he had a bloody great winch like that. Big winch, 16-0.
Although they feed well up in the water column, do you think that the type of ground below them, sand, rock, wrecks or whatever, made any difference?
We reckon that 90% of our big fish was caught in what we named then as Mako Valley, between the 10-mile buoy and the Manacle Bell. I've had people come down here, they say, where's the best fish for one? I said, well, that's where we caught most of sea fish there. But there again, the land of Big Mako is a team job. No one man. The man on the rod, he bring into the gaff once or twice or 3 or 4 times. So that's his job. But after that, the skill comes in to getting in the boat, because we've got every fish in the boat.
I should imagine that they're also a bit of a handful when it comes time to getting them on board too.
You've got to have special gear, because you put a gaff in, there are 2 big gaffs on ropes. As soon as you start to lift it's the tails going like that. So you've got to have a sliding loop to go down over it and get that tail. You see what I mean? Up out the water, because there's water going all over you. Because they're very strong fish, even on the rod after hours. They're hard, and very hard fish. Whereas the blue shark and the rest of them are soft fish, aren't they?
So what kind of size did you get them up to in the end?
Our best one was 498.5.
And Joyce Yallop's record, which stands to this day, was 500 pounds.
Half a bloody pound. But that one had a 50-pound conger on it. And since then, the blue skippers, because I work out a blue, see? Just a minute. I'll show you the photograph of that one. I think it's here. So blue skippers told me practically you was wrong. But they was losing their name at Lou, you see. For big fish like the Bacardi rum. We won the Bacardi rum festival so often that they stopped the number. Because the angler had a pound, see? For every pound of shark, like if you had a blue of 180, that bloke who caught him would have 180. So they stopped at the Lou then.
You used to get plenty of blues as well.
20 a day.
What about the poor beagles?
Oh, we got our share of they. I caught 11 of those in a day. And left about 8 of them go again. Small ones.
Any threshers?
Yeah. I'm the only skipper in the port catch that. No one else has caught one. Yeah, that's the buggers we used to have out here, look.
And bluefins. Did you ever hook any of them on the line?
Hooked them, yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah. We ran right out of the line like that. Bang.
Well, while you were sharking?
2 passes, yes. Cut their passes in half them.
So you'd occasionally also hook up fish other than sharks on the big baits close to the surface, including the odd bluefin tuna and sailfish. You'd certainly know about it when a big tuna took off.
The first run, when they take a bite, they got, well, I should think 500-600 yards of line non-stop, like a bat out of hell. And with the gear we had in those days, see? Thank you. Just Becky's there. Handsome, it.
Aye.
With the gear we had in those days, we had some hardy kit there, which was good. But it's to get the luck, like I say, you get to take the right rod, you know. If you got one, if you're fishing light, like I used to ask some people, oh, I want to fish for £30 or £25. I said, look, that's a waste of bloody time. I said, because the first big fish you have, you're going to lose it. Which they do. Sound like a trout out there, you know.
I'll let you eat your pasty in peace.
What would you say are the standout, memorable days you spent out there sharking? It could be a big fish lost, a long hard fight, or even a last minute catch. Did you ever, for example, ever land, or even hook up 2 Makos in the same day?
Well, one I remember quite well wasn't a Mako at all. It's the first thresher we ever landed here in the port. I had a little boy, 14-year-old, working on the boat with me, and my son setting a rod, very light rod. I put a lead on it, even put it right under the boat.
Yeah, I've heard that before with threshers. Drop a small bait down under the rubby-dubby bags without a balloon.
And that was the same week as when the Jaws film came out. All the London national papers were all Jaws this and Jaws that. And this boy, the first shark he ever caught. Chris, my boy, said, look, we'll see if we can get the boy to catch a shark. And then people ask, the first thing they say, have you caught a shark? He say, yes. I said, all right, go on, stick one under the bag, grab the bag. Which he did. Well, we had on for an hour and a half. 286. Thresher. He come to the top a lot, that fish. It's lucky I had people there who had a camera then, you know, who could take the films. Forget what it's called. And they took that fish under for an hour and a half, and that boy never made a mistake. I stood with him all the time, and my boy worked the engines. He was 15 feet long, 286 I think he was. Didn't he win some stuff with that fish? It was all the rage that week, you know, in the film. He had rods sent to him, winches sent to him, all sorts of stuff. I remember that one quite well, because my boy was only 15 then, and he worked the engines. I was out when he was on the bow seat. And the first one of a species, you know what I mean? It stands out, doesn't it?
What about any individual Makos that stand out?
Not like that, no. Usually, if you get a Mako on, you don't catch a lot of sharks that day. You don't catch much blues or nothing like that. He's out there diving around and prancing around. He knows he's out there, right? And you run for the boat and it's all this tricks of the trade, you know? And by the time you land him, that's part of your day gone. You tell the fighting qualities of a Mako is the firmness, the hardness of the fish. Whereas the poor big old thresher and blue sharks are soft fish. What I call, you know? Bellies are soft, whereas a Mako is sheer muscle. And you've got the weight there as well, see? Different league of fish. I don't reckon that the rest are fit to swim for fighting qualities in the same sea. No, I don't think they are. Blue sharks, you know, it's a case of, well, some make gallows showing to get them in, but you get people down here year after year who caught a lot of blue sharks. It's just routine, you know?
And despite the lack of rod and line catches, do you ever see the odd Mako out there these days while mackerelling?
No, you don't see they. I have never seen one I could identify. We had a couple of threshers right around their mackerel boat last season, and we had a big shark, I estimate to be 300 pound. The boy back aft was wanting in a string of mackerel just before the dark and bloody crash. He come up and grabbed the line and jumped at the same time and splashed and put the water all over the boy and frightened the shit out of him.
That sounds a bit like a Mako. What do you think?
You can't tell unless you get him on the boat. The teeth is the only thing you see, boy. Unless you hook him, if you hook him, got him on a rod, he'll jump. That's the only thing he'll give you. Identification. After that, you've got a fight on your hands.
Do you feel that the Mako days will ever come back? Could it ever be the same again?
No, I can't see it ever be the same again. Because if we get any amount of mackerel back like there was here, we had the old Scottish purser fleet here. And up to 38 or 40 big iron curtain boats from Russia and Bulgaria and everywhere, factory ships. And the Scotsman was pursing for them, you see. I'd measure thousands of tons of mackerel coming in here every day. Well, if you stop that feed, you stop the predators every time. That's for birds of the air exactly the same. Everything got a feed. And if you stop their feed and they wipe them out, we never had no mackerel here for 10 years.
Is that it then? Or might it still be worth putting some baits in the water?
Well, as I say, yeah, you know what luck is. I've got some people coming down from up in Colchester next week. They have a week in the spring and a week in the autumn. That's what they're really after. But there again, like I say, like Major Olden said, I told you just now. Look, one day, come from Birmingham and you've got a bloody good chance of one. And I agree with that. And there you've got a good chance of losing, see?
Have you ever caught one yourself on rod and line? Or do you prefer to let the paying customers do all the grunt and groan stuff?
No, I haven't caught hardly any sharks at all. I caught a couple alongside a rubby bag on the light rod, you know. I caught a poor beagle on the mackerel. He was 56. I had Lord Tunley out with me that day. He caught 3 sharks and I was running in mackerel and this bloody poor beagle come up and swat me. I let him go on the early. I had on for about an hour getting him pain on him. I said to Lord Tunley, kiss the cab captain. He said, you couldn't have alongside the boat, yeah? I had my hands like that, you know. He said, that's enough, Frank. He had a hell of a day. He thought, well, that's it, you know. You aren't going to do that often. I said, no. I said, you catch them often. I said, they big ones take their hooks, like. We got 30-odd hooks on us, that, see. They get hooks wrapped in them, you know.
So how, then, do you feel about this reputation you have as the Mako Man?
Wow. Look, you can say no other. Because all the boats are there, aren't they? My younger brother, he had a lot of them, see. He had a lot. But you've got to have a combination of luck. You've got to have the fish there first, right? Then, like I told you earlier, you've got to have a combination of a good angler on the rod. Somebody fit. You've got to keep up that tip for at least £100 an hour. Well, for the first £100 isn't bad. For the second £100, you begin to ache a bit. 400 bloody pound, 4 hours. You wish your bloody thing broke. Major Olden told me that once for that big one we had. He said, praying to God the first couple of hours he was old, praying to God the 4th hour the bloody thing would break. At least I've had on, Frank. And I said, well, that's it. You've got to have a hunting instinct, man. You've got to think the same as the fish think, you see. You've got to become almost a fish, if you know what I mean. There's certain times of the day, like out there now on this job, certain times of the day for there, like I told the people on the quay yesterday, easiest thing in the world is to catch fish. Hardest thing in the world is to go where they live. Same go for sharks, exactly the same. Every fish, that is. If you want a trout, you go to a trout reservoir, and if you can't catch a trout, well, like I've told people that with me, I said, look, my handsome, you wouldn't catch a fish in the bloody sea aquarium. Why is that? I said, well, you're doing everything wrong. You aren't listening to what I'm saying. Oh.
And now it's all in the past, a part of angling history.
Oh, it's history now. I don't think we'll ever see it like that. I had 3 sharks boats out of myself. 3 skippers and boats, and me. There was 11 boats going out here then. Every year, and the crowds come down on the quay in the evenings, hundreds of people. See the way my master weighing the fish in his white coat and book, you know. We would never see it again. Well, the shark club is folded up in here now. But it was good. It was good. I wasn't good about that. Well, the blue sharks made Lou, man. Lou used to be nothing until they caught up with them, and that was the craze then, but then it's English nature now, I forget what it was called, they began to kick up after about 10, 15 years of it. I don't think Lou helped herself. They didn't commercialise on the fish. They hung them up on show for the next day, you know. And they was taken to sea and dumped, I believe. Which some people don't seem the right thing to do. Therefore, we used to eat till our stuff home here. Nice shark steaks about an inch thick, you know. Handsome. Well, I got these people going to know very soon. If they get blue sharks, they wouldn't want them. They say, take them up to the shop. And I will. Take off the pins, guts in the flap, handsome bit of fish. No bone, but your centre little what's called walking stick all the way through.
And you was the maker of that history, but now, sadly, it is just that, history. Gone forever.
I suppose so. Well, I'm 87 now. I'm out in the boat every day, still, we'll be after shark this year again. And you're still hoping for that one to come along. But I get dampened with the idea that I got proper men who can catch a bloody Mako. They haven't got a chance in hell. He went take their rod, you see what I mean? I know the law of average, you think. Well, Major Olden proved that. He came out with me years on his own. Then he was so intense to catch one, he bought his own boat. But he was so hooked with the Mako, you know. He spent thousands of pounds and got his own boat, which he named her Mako. But he's gone now, he had heart attacks, see? We've lost a lot of people who caught Makos like that, heart attacks. I got his gaff here, and there was, well, my wife said there was a gaff for me. I got a gaff made by Grace New Young Christchurch. Proper Mako gaff, you know. But you've got to have a loop as well to stop that tail. Otherwise you break your legs, see? You're getting in on the boat. Bloody thing going from one side of the boat to the other. And they're thick right down the end there, you know. Then you've got your big tail on that as well, see what I mean? You go like that. And if that catches in your leg, you know it. Yeah. And some sport, mind, but
probably never to be repeated, which is a great pity, really. You'd think that with a warm water species such as the Mako, and supposedly rising sea temperatures, that more rather than less of them would be putting in ashore. Or could it be just the decline in both shark fishing interest generally, and of the fleets of shark fishing boats specifically, with all that rubby-dubby to draw them in, that was also in part responsible? Fewer boats on the water and less chum must reduce the chances of an accidental encounter. Whatever the reason, we just don't know. The one thing we do know is that for around a decade or so, the UK enjoyed a golden era of regular encounters with arguably the hardest fighting and most prized shark species on the planet. My thanks then to Frank Vinnicome for sharing his recollections of that fascinating period with us here.